The great crystal dome of Zerath Prime sparkled under the light of 3 purple suns. Inside the massive structure, the Zephyrian High Council gathered for their monthly meeting. Their tall, thin bodies moved with grace as they took their positions around the circular chamber. Each council member glowed with different colors that showed their mood and rank. Vextar, the council leader, stood at the center of the room. His skin pulsed with bright gold patterns that meant he was excited about something important. He raised one of his forearms to call for silence. The other council members stopped their quiet conversations and turned to look at him. "My fellow leaders," Vextar began, his voice carrying easily through the chamber. "Today we discuss a new world for our empire. Our scout ships have found something interesting in a distant star system." He waved his hand, and a holographic display appeared above them. It showed a small blue and green planet orbiting a yellow star. The planet looked peaceful and beautiful from space, with white clouds swirling over vast oceans and brown continents. "This is the 3rd planet in what the inhabitants call the Sol System," Vextar continued. "The creatures living there call themselves humans, and they call their world Earth." Several younger council members began to glow with amusement. Their skin patterns shifted to light blue and purple, colors that meant they found something funny. Kailaris, the commander of their military forces, let out a sound that was like laughter, mixed with a hiss. "Humans?" Kailaris said, his tentacles waving in the air. "What kind of name is that? Do they even have proper technology?" Vextar smiled, showing rows of sharp teeth. "That is the best part, my friend. They have barely learned to leave their own planet. Our scouts watched them struggle to build simple space stations. They use crude metal ships powered by controlled explosions. Can you imagine such primitive methods?" The display changed to show images of human spacecraft. The council members saw bulky, awkward-looking vessels that moved slowly through space. They looked like flying metal boxes compared to the smooth, living ships of the Zephyrian Empire. "Look at their weapons," Kailaris added, pointing at the display. "They shoot small pieces of metal at each other. They use chemical bombs that make fire and smoke. They have no energy shields, no bioweapons, no neural control systems. They still press buttons with their hands." The younger council members burst into more laughter. Their skin patterns danced with bright colors of joy and superiority. To them, the humans looked like children playing with toys, but in the back of the chamber, one figure did not laugh. Elder Morden sat quietly in his special chair, his ancient body supported by soft cushions. His skin was pale and gray, showing his great age. Unlike the others, his patterns glowed with deep red, the color of warning and fear. Elder Morden slowly stood up, his movements careful and deliberate. The chamber fell silent as all eyes turned to him. Even though many of the younger council members thought he was too old and worried too much, they still respected his position. "I must speak," the elder said, his voice shaky but firm. "I have lived for over 3,000 years. I have seen the rise and fall of many civilizations, and I have read the ancient records left by the predecessors." Some council members rolled their large eyes. The predecessors were an ancient race that had ruled the galaxy long before the Zephyrians had even learned to fly. They had left behind vast libraries and warnings about different species, but most Zephyrians thought these old records were just stories and myths. "The predecessors wrote about the humans of Earth," Mordun continued. "They called them the ones who refused to yield. The ancient texts are full of warnings about this species." Vextar's golden pattern shifted slightly, showing mild annoyance. "Honored elder, surely you cannot believe those old fairy tales. The predecessors lived millions of years ago. They wrote about many species that no longer exist." "But humans do exist," Mordun replied firmly. "And the warnings are clear. The predecessors wrote that humans are unlike any other species in the galaxy. They said that humans do not fight to win, they fight to survive, and they never ever surrender." Kailaris made a dismissive gesture with his tentacles. "Elder Morden, with all respect, look at the evidence before us. These humans live for less than 100 years. How can such short-lived creatures be dangerous? They cannot even work together peacefully. Our scouts report that they fight wars among themselves constantly. Yes, added another council member. They pollute their own world with toxic chemicals. They destroy their own forests. They fight over resources instead of sharing them. How can such a divided and destructive species threaten the mighty Zephyrian Empire? More council members joined in the discussion. They pointed out that humans had no unified government, no advanced technology, and no understanding of the greater galaxy. Their strongest weapons could barely scratch the hull of a Zephyrian scout ship. We have conquered 43 worlds, Vextar declared proudly. Our biomechanical fleet is the most powerful force in this part of the galaxy. Our ships can repair themselves, adapt to new threats, and strike with the power of stars. What could one primitive planet possibly do against us? The council chamber filled with agreement. Skin patterns shifted to bright green and gold, showing confidence and determination. The younger members were eager to add Earth to their growing empire. It would be an easy victory, they thought. Perhaps their easiest conquest yet. But Elder, Morden shook his head sadly. You do not understand what you are dealing with. The predecessor records tell of a species that grows stronger under pressure. They describe creatures that learn from every defeat, that turn their weaknesses into weapons that become more dangerous the more desperate they become. Fairy tales, Kylaris scoffed. Stories to frighten children. The records say that humans are the only species that weaponizes their own desperation. Morden continued, his voice growing stronger with passion. They tell of a race that has survived ice ages, plagues, natural disasters, and countless wars with themselves. Every challenge makes them adapt and grow stronger. Vextar held up a hand for silence. Honored Elder, your concerns are noted, but we must look at facts, not ancient myths. Our decision is made. We will contact Earth and offer them the same choice we give all new species. Join our empire peacefully or face the consequences. The vote was quick and unanimous, except for Elder Morden's single voice of opposition. The council members glowed with satisfaction as they planned their newest conquest. They would send a small fleet to demonstrate their power, demand surrender, and add another world to their empire. As the meeting ended and the other council members filed out of the chamber, Elder Morden remained in his seat. He stared at the holographic image of Earth, still spinning slowly in the center of the room. His skin patterns pulsed with deep red warnings that no one else bothered to notice. In his ancient memory, he recalled the exact words from the predecessor archives. Beware the species that treat survival as an art form. Beware the ones who laugh in the face of impossible odds. Beware the humans of the third world, for they do not know how to quit. The elder whispered to the empty chamber. They should have listened to the warnings. Now it may be too late for us all. Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the ESS Liberty, staring out at the vast darkness of space. The ship was humanity's pride and joy, their first real deep space vessel capable of traveling beyond the solar system. It had taken 20 years to build and represented the best of human engineering and determination. Jake was a career military man who had worked his way up from a simple fighter pilot to commanding humanity's most advanced ship. His weathered face showed the stress of command, but his eyes still held the spark of curiosity that had driven humans to reach for the stars. Captain, called out Lieutenant Lisa Park from the communications station. We're getting a priority signal from Europa Base. Commander Torres says it's urgent. Jake nodded and walked over to the main display screen. The image of Commander Ryan Torres appeared, his face tight with worry. Behind him, Jake could see the busy activity of the mining station's control room. Captain Morrison, Ryan said without his usual greeting. We've detected something big heading our way. Long-range sensors picked up multiple contacts moving through the outer system. They're not broadcasting any identification codes and they're not responding to our hails. Jake felt his stomach tighten. Humanity had always wondered if they were alone in the universe. Now it seemed they were about to get their answer. How many contacts, Commander? Jake asked. 15 confirmed. Possibly more. They're moving in formation, and they're huge. Our biggest estimates put them at least 3 times the size of the Liberty. Captain, these ships don't match any human design. They're definitely not ours. The bridge of the Liberty became very quiet. Every crew member stopped what they were doing to listen. This was the moment that would change everything for humanity. "Put me through to Earth Command," Jake ordered. "Priority Alpha Channel." Within minutes, Admiral Kate Sullivan's face appeared on the screen. She was a tough woman who had risen through the ranks during the Mars colonial wars. Her short gray hair and stern expression made her look like someone who could handle any crisis. "Admiral," Jake began, "we have a situation. Unknown vessels have entered our solar system. They appear to be of alien origin." Admiral Sullivan's face remained calm, but Jake could see the tension in her eyes. "How long until they reach the inner system?" "At their current speed, approximately 18 hours, Ryan Torres replied from Europa Base. For the next few hours, the solar system buzzed with activity. Every human ship, station, and colony received emergency broadcasts. Civilian transports began evacuating non-essential personnel from the outer colonies. Military vessels took up defensive positions around Earth and Mars. Dr. Alan Hughes, working in the deep research labs beneath Cheyenne Mountain, received an urgent call from his superiors. As humanity's leading expert on theoretical alien contact, scenarios he had spent years preparing for this moment. Now his theories were about to be put to the test. "Dr. Hughes," Admiral Sullivan said over the secure line, "I need you to prepare first contact protocols. If these visitors are peaceful, we need to be ready. If they're not, we need to understand what we're dealing with." Alan looked at his computer screens filled with data about the approaching ships. "Admiral, based on the size and formation of these vessels, this looks like a military fleet, not an exploration mission. I recommend we prepare for the worst while hoping for the best." Meanwhile, on the outer edge of the solar system, the Zephyrian fleet moved steadily toward Earth. Commander Kylaris stood in the biomechanical control center of his flagship, watching displays that showed the primitive human settlements scattered throughout the system. "How pathetic," he said to his second-in-command. "Look at their tiny outposts. They cling to dead rocks and call them colonies. This will be even easier than we thought." The Zephyrian ships were living creatures as much as they were machines. Their hulls pulsed with bioenergy and their weapon systems were grown from specially engineered organisms. To Kylaris, the human ships looked like crude metal boxes held together with primitive welding. When the alien fleet reached the orbit of Jupiter, they sent their first message to humanity. Lisa Park, still at her communication station on the Liberty, was the first human to receive an alien transmission. "Captain," she called out, her voice shaking slightly, "I'm getting a signal on multiple frequencies. It's some kind of universal translation system. The message is coming through in English." Jake hurried to her station. "Put it on speakers, Lieutenant." The voice that filled the bridge was cold and mechanical, clearly artificial, but understandable. "Attention, primitive species of the third planet. You will identify yourselves and state your level of technological development. Prepare to receive terms for your integration into the Zephyrian Empire." Jake looked around at his crew. Every face showed the same mixture of fear and determination. This was not the peaceful first contact that humanity had hoped for. "Open a channel," Jake ordered. "Channel open, sir." Jake took a deep breath and spoke into the microphone. "This is Captain Jake Morrison of the Earth Space Service. You have entered the Sol system without permission. State your intentions and identify yourselves." The response came quickly. "Captain Morrison, you are in no position to make demands. We are the Zephyrian Empire, rulers of 43 worlds. Your species will submit to our authority or face the consequences. You have one planetary rotation to surrender your military forces and prepare for occupation." The transmission ended, leaving the bridge in stunned silence. Jake felt anger rising in his chest. These aliens had traveled across the galaxy to threaten his home and his people. "Get me Admiral Sullivan," he said quietly. When the Admiral's face appeared on screen, Jake could see that she had received the same message. Her expression was grim, but determined. "Admiral," Jake said, "they're giving us 24 hours to surrender." Admiral Sullivan nodded slowly. "Captain Morrison, transmit this message to the alien fleet. This is Admiral Kate Sullivan of the Earth Defense Forces. Humanity does not negotiate with conquerors. If you want our worlds, you'll have to take them." Jake smiled grimly. "That," was the response he had hoped to hear. "Yes, ma'am. Transmitting now." As the message was broadcast to the Zephyrian fleet, something changed throughout the solar system. On every human ship, station, and colony, people stopped what they were doing and looked up at the stars. They knew that their quiet existence was over. War had come to humanity. Commander Kyle Eris received the human response with amusement. "They refuse to surrender? How amusing. These creatures actually think they can fight us." But on Europa base, Commander Torres was already putting humanity's desperate plan into action. If the aliens wanted a fight, they would get one. Every human settlement began preparing for battle, using mining equipment as weapons and turning their homes into fortresses. Colonel Amy Richardson, commanding the defense forces on Ganymede, gathered her small team of soldiers and engineers. "Listen up, people," she said. "We're outgunned and outnumbered, but we're not out of options. These aliens think we're primitive. Let's show them what human creativity can do." Across the solar system, similar scenes played out on every human outpost. Engineers worked alongside soldiers to convert mining lasers into weapons. Cargo ships were retrofitted with armor plating. Even civilian volunteers joined the effort, knowing that their survival depended on stopping the alien invasion. Dr. Hughes, deep in his mountain laboratory, worked frantically to analyze the alien transmissions. Every piece of data about the enemy could mean the difference between victory and defeat. "They're overconfident," he told Admiral Sullivan during their next briefing. "Their message shows they expect easy surrender. They're not prepared for a real fight." Admiral Sullivan nodded. "Then we'll give them a fight they'll never forget. Humanity didn't crawl out of caves and survive ice ages just to surrender to alien bullies." As the 24-hour deadline approached, every human in the solar system waited for the first shot to be fired. They had no idea that they were about to begin a war that would change the galaxy forever. The first attack came at dawn on Earth, but in space there was no dawn or sunset. Commander Kyle Eris watched from his flagship as 3 Zephyrian bioships approached the human mining station on Ceres. He expected the attack to last only minutes. "Fire on the mining facility," he ordered. "Show these humans what real power looks like." The bioenergy weapons struck the station with force that should have torn it apart instantly. But when the bright flashes faded, the station was still there. Damaged but still fighting back. "Impossible," Kyle Eris muttered. "Our weapons should have destroyed that primitive outpost." What he did not know was that Commander Ryan Torres had spent the last 18 hours preparing for this moment. The humans had moved all non-essential people to safety and turned their mining station into a fortress. They had reinforced the walls with extra metal plating and positioned their mining lasers to work as weapons. "Return fire," Ryan shouted to his crew. "Hit them with everything we have." The modified mining lasers struck the Zephyrian ships. The beams were not as powerful as the alien weapons, but they were accurate and relentless. More importantly, the humans had turned their mining equipment into mass drivers, machines that could shoot chunks of metal at incredible speeds. The Zephyrians had never seen weapons like these. Their bioships were designed to handle energy, weapons, and other advanced technology. They were not prepared for simple chunks of iron and steel flying at them like bullets from a giant gun. "Sir," reported one of Kyle Eris's officers, "the humans are using their industrial equipment as weapons. They're shooting raw materials at our ships." Kyle Eris felt his first moment of doubt. These humans were supposed to be primitive. They should have surrendered when they saw the power of the Zephyrian Empire. Instead, they were fighting back with tools meant for mining asteroids. The battle for Ceres lasted 6 hours. When it was over, the mining station was destroyed, but so were 2 Zephyrian bioships. Commander Torres and his crew had died, but not before sending a message to Earth. "We hurt them. They can be beaten." Dr. Alan Hughes received that message in his laboratory deep inside Cheyenne Mountain. For months, he had been working around the clock with teams of engineers and scientists. Their job was simple but almost impossible. Figure out how to fight an enemy with technology far beyond anything humans had ever seen. They're biological machines, Alan explained to Admiral Sullivan during their daily briefing. The alien ships are grown, not built. They can repair themselves, but that also means they follow patterns. They adapt slowly, like living things. What does that mean for us? The Admiral asked. It means we can learn their patterns faster than they can change them. Every time we fight them, we get data. Every battle teaches us something new about how they work. Alan pointed to screens showing the wreckage from the series battle. Look at this debris. Their ships have weak points where the biological systems connect to the mechanical parts. If we can hit those spots, we can do real damage. Meanwhile, Captain Jake Morrison was learning the same lessons in a much more dangerous way. The ESS, Liberty, had been modified with every piece of alien technology the humans could salvage. The ship now looked like a strange mix of human engineering and alien biomechanics. Captain, Lieutenant Lisa Park called from her station. We have 3 Zephyrian fighters approaching from the asteroid belt. They're moving to attack the Mars supply convoy. Jake studied the tactical display. The convoy carried food and medical supplies to the Mars colonies. If it was destroyed, thousands of people would suffer. Set intercept course, Jake ordered. All hands to battle stations. The Liberty moved to protect the convoy, but Jake knew his ship was outmatched. The Zephyrian fighters were faster, more heavily armed, and built for combat. The Liberty was originally designed for exploration, not war. But humans had learned to turn disadvantages into advantages. Jake had studied every battle report from the past 6 months. He knew the alien ships were predictable in their attack patterns. Wait for it, Jake said quietly as the enemy fighters approached. Let them get close. The Zephyrian pilots were confident. Their bio-ships had superior firepower and speed. They expected to destroy the human ship quickly and move on to the defenseless cargo vessels. Now, Jake shouted. The Liberty suddenly changed direction, not smoothly like a ship under power, but by firing explosive charges that had been attached to its hull. The maneuver was violent and dangerous, but it worked. The alien fighters shot past their target, their weapons missing completely. Before the Zephyrians could turn around, the Liberty fired its modified weapons. Human engineers had combined mining lasers with salvaged alien technology to create hybrid weapons that hit harder than either system could manage alone. 2 of the fighter ships were destroyed instantly. The third managed to escape, but not before taking heavy damage. The cargo convoy continued safely to Mars. News of these small victories spread throughout the human colonies. People began to believe that the aliens could be beaten. More importantly, they began to understand what kind of war they were fighting. Colonel Amy Richardson had been hiding in the ice caves of Ganymede for 3 months. Her original base had been destroyed in the 2nd week of the war, but she and her team had survived by going underground. The aliens thought they were dead. That was exactly what Amy wanted them to think. The Zephyrian patrol comes by every 3 days, she told her soldiers. They follow the same route every time. They're so confident that they don't even scan for life signs anymore. Amy's team had spent weeks preparing an ambush using improvised weapons made from mining equipment and salvaged alien technology. They had learned to hide their heat signatures and mask their communications from alien sensors. When the patrol ship passed overhead, Amy's people were ready. Explosive charges that had been hidden in the ice went off at exactly the right moment. The Zephyrian ship crashed into the surface of Ganymede, its biomechanical systems damaged beyond repair. Search the wreckage, Amy ordered. Take everything that might be useful, then we disappear before their friends come looking. These hit-and-run attacks were happening throughout the solar system. Humans who were supposed to be dead kept appearing to strike at alien patrols and supply lines. The Zephyrians found themselves fighting an enemy that refused to stay defeated. Commander Kylaris stood in his command center, staring at reports that made no sense to him. His forces had superior numbers and technology, but the war was not going as planned. Every victory cost more ships and resources than expected. The humans fight without honor, he complained to his officers. They attack from hiding. They use suicide tactics. They turn their own equipment into bombs. What Kylaris did not understand was that humans had been preparing for this kind of war their entire history. Every human colony had emergency plans for evacuation and guerrilla warfare. Every piece of equipment was designed to have multiple uses. When the aliens destroyed the main shipyard near Earth, human engineers simply moved their work to asteroid mining stations. When alien patrols found their bases, humans went underground, or into the deep space between planets. The war that was supposed to last weeks had dragged on for months. Worse, the humans were getting stronger. Every captured alien ship was studied and copied. Every battle taught humanity new lessons about their enemy. Dr. Hughes had teams working around the clock to reverse engineer Zephyrian technology. They had learned to grow their own biomechanical components and integrate them with human systems. The new hybrid ships were unlike anything either species had built before. "We're not trying to match their technology," Alan explained to a meeting of military commanders. "We're creating something new, something they won't expect and can't easily counter." The humans were also learning to use the aliens' own tactics against them. Captured bioships were reprogrammed to respond to human commands. Alien weapons were modified to work with human targeting systems. Most importantly, humanity had learned that the Zephyrians made the same mistake that many Earth armies had made throughout history. They underestimated their enemy and assumed that superior technology would guarantee victory. As the first year of the war ended, Commander Kyle Aris found himself in an impossible situation. His empire expected quick conquests and easy victories. Instead, he was fighting a grinding war of attrition against an enemy that seemed to grow more dangerous with every passing day. In his private moments, Kylaris began to remember the warnings of Elder Morden. Perhaps the Old One had been right about the humans after all. 1 year and 3 months after the first alien ship entered the solar system, Admiral Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the ESS Defiance. The ship bore little resemblance to the old Liberty that had been destroyed 6 months earlier. This new vessel was a masterpiece of human determination and alien technology working together. The hull was a mixture of Earth steel and Zephyrian biometal that could repair itself during battle. The weapon systems combined human targeting, computers with alien energy weapons. Most importantly, the ship was crewed by humans who had learned to fight a war that no military academy had ever prepared them for. "Admiral," Lieutenant Ben Carter called from the sensor station, "we have a large Zephyrian fleet approaching Mars orbit. 15 ships, including their command vessel." Jake studied the tactical display. After more than a year of war, he had learned to read alien ship formations like a book. This was not an attack fleet. The Zephyrians were positioning themselves for something else entirely. "They want to talk," Jake said to his bridge crew. "After all this time, they finally want to negotiate." Lieutenant Lisa Park, now serving as his communications officer, looked up from her station with surprise. "Sir, we're getting a transmission from the alien fleet. They're requesting a meeting." The irony was not lost on anyone on the bridge. The species that had demanded humanity's surrender was now asking for negotiations. Jake allowed himself a small smile. It had been a long, bloody road to reach this moment. "Put them through," Jake ordered. The main screen filled with the image of Commander Kylaris. The alien military leader looked different than he had in previous transmissions. His bioluminescent patterns were dim, and his posture showed exhaustion. Behind him, Jake could see other Zephyrian officers who looked equally defeated. "Admiral Morrison," Kylaris began, his mechanical translator making his voice sound flat and tired. "The Zephyrian High Council wishes to discuss terms for ending this conflict." Jake kept his expression neutral, but inside he felt a surge of satisfaction. "Commander Kylaris, I believe your first message to us was a demand for surrender. Has your position changed?" The alien commander's patterns flickered with what Jake had learned was embarrassment. "Circumstances have evolved, Admiral. We underestimated your species' capabilities." While Jake spoke with the aliens, President Maria Santos was meeting with her advisors in the Emergency Government Center in Colorado. The underground facility had become the heart of Earth's war effort, coordinating the defense of humanity across the entire solar system. Madam President, Dr. Alan Hughes reported, our intelligence suggests the Zephyrian Empire is facing serious problems back home. Our war has lasted much longer than they expected, and other species in their empire are beginning to question their strength. President Santos nodded thoughtfully. She was a former military officer who had been elected just months before the invasion began. The war had tested her leadership in ways no peacetime president could imagine. What are our terms? She asked. Complete withdrawal from human space, Admiral Kate Sullivan answered. Full reparations for the colonies they destroyed, and a public broadcast to warn other species that humanity is under our protection. President Santos looked around the room at her advisors. These people had guided humanity through its darkest hour. Now they were about to negotiate from a position of strength that no one had thought possible 18 months ago. Make it clear, to them, she said firmly, that these terms are not negotiable. They came here as conquerors. They leave as a defeated enemy, or they don't leave at all. Back in space, the negotiations continued aboard a neutral station that had been hastily constructed for the meeting. Jake Morrison led the human delegation, while Commander Kylaris represented the Zephyrian Empire. The meeting room was simple and functional, with representatives from both species sitting across from each other at a metal table. The contrast between them was striking, the humans in their practical military uniforms, the aliens with their elaborate bioluminescent displays. Your terms are harsh, Kylaris said after hearing humanity's demands. The High Council will not approve such conditions easily. Jake leaned forward slightly. Commander, let me explain something to you. 18 months ago, you entered our system without invitation and demanded our surrender. You attacked our colonies and killed our people. The only reason we're having this conversation instead of continuing to hunt down your ships is because we choose to be merciful. Kylaris's patterns shifted to deep purple. The color Jake had learned meant confusion and frustration. How did you do it? Our technology was superior. Our numbers were greater. Our empire spans dozens of worlds. How did you defeat us? Jake studied the alien commander for a long moment. During the war, he had come to respect Kylaris as a skilled opponent, even though they were enemies. The question deserved an honest answer. You studied our weaknesses and thought you understood us, Jake replied. You saw our short lives and assumed we were fragile. You saw our divided governments and thought we were weak. You saw our crude technology and thought we were primitive. He paused, choosing his words carefully. You never bothered to study our strengths. We don't fight because we're stronger than our enemies. We fight because we refuse to give up. We don't win because we have better weapons. We win because we adapt, we learn, and we never, ever surrender. As if summoned by Jake's words, the door to the meeting room opened, and Elder Morden entered. The ancient Zephyrian moved slowly, supported by a walking device, but his presence filled the room with authority that even the humans could feel. Honored Elder, Kylaris said with surprise, why are you here? The old alien looked at both delegations with eyes that had seen the rise and fall of civilizations. When he spoke, his voice carried the weight of centuries. I am here to witness the fulfillment of ancient prophecy, Morden said. I tried to warn the High Council, but they laughed at the old stories. They should have listened to the predecessors. He turned to look directly at Jake Morrison. The ancient records called your species the ones who refuse to yield. They wrote that humans are the only race that grows stronger under pressure, that learns from defeat, that turns disadvantage into advantage. The elders' bioluminescent patterns pulsed with deep red warning colors. The predecessors wrote that humans do not fight to conquer, they fight to survive, and they are very, very good at it. Kylaris looked from the elder to the human delegation, finally beginning to understand the magnitude of his empire's mistake. What happens now? President Santos had joined the meeting by video link from Earth. Her image appeared on the wall screen as she delivered humanity's final terms. The Zephyrian Empire will withdraw all forces from human space immediately, she announced. You will provide full compensation for the colonies you destroyed and the lives you took. Most importantly, you will broadcast a message throughout. the galaxy warning other species that Earth and its colonies are under human protection. She paused, her expression stern but not cruel. If you agree to these terms, this war ends today. If you refuse, we will continue this conflict until your empire is no longer a threat to anyone. Elder Morden spoke into the silence that followed. Accept their terms, Commander. The humans have shown mercy by offering to let us leave with our lives. Do not mistake their generosity for weakness. Commander Kylaris looked at his delegation, then at the humans who had defeated the might of the Zephyrian Empire. His pattern shifted to pale blue, the color of acceptance and defeat. We agree to your terms, he said quietly. The formal ceremony took place 3 days later. Representatives from both species signed the peace treaty while cameras broadcast the event throughout human space. But the most important moment came when the Zephyrian Empire sent its promised message to the galaxy. The broadcast was simple and direct. The species known as humans, inhabiting the system they call Sol, are hereby declared a protected civilization. Any attempt to attack or subjugate humanity will be met with immediate and total retaliation. The Zephyrian Empire has learned that humans are not a species to be underestimated. We recommend that all others learn from our mistake. As the alien fleet prepared to leave the solar system, Elder Morden requested a private meeting with Admiral Morrison. The two leaders met in the observation deck of the space station, looking out at the stars. Your people will be legends now, the Elder said. Word will spread throughout the galaxy about the species that refused to surrender, that turned mining equipment into weapons, that defeated an empire with determination and creativity. Jake nodded, but his expression remained serious. We didn't want to be legends, Elder. We just wanted to be left alone. That is what makes you dangerous, Morden replied with something that might have been a smile. You do not seek conquest, but you will fight to the death to protect what is yours. The galaxy will remember this lesson. As the last Zephyrian ship disappeared into hyperspace, Jake Morrison looked out at the solar system that humanity had successfully defended. In the distance he could see Earth, the blue and green world that had produced a species capable of defeating an interstellar empire through sheer stubborn refusal to quit. The elders had warned them about Earth. They should have listened.